May, thank you. Thanks for herding the cats once again this year. And Gary, thanks for the mention. Today it's a little. I've got mixed feelings. I was just sitting here thinking. I spent much of my adult life doing business in Asia, living in Asia, working on Asia subjects. I had the fortune of spending about 4.5 years in the Philippines in my 20s, 7.5 years in India, and almost 5 years in Vietnam. And I had the great privilege of managing our Asia operations up in Washington before I came back to Atlanta 2 years ago. And so, as Gary mentioned, I'm on my way back to South Africa, where I served right after the apartheid transition. And we have a very exciting things going on there. President Obama has a Doing Business in Africa initiative, where we have a focus on developing trade and partnerships in Africa. I'll be covering Sub-Saharan Africa from Johannesburg. We're going to be opening new offices in Mozambique, in Angola, in Tanzania, and Ethiopia, to go with our offices in Nigeria, Ghana, and of course South Africa and Kenya. So that's exciting stuff. There is a lot of new things that are happening in Africa, but of course the things that are happening in Asia continue to just really boggle my mind. It's just from my early days in 1978, when I got off the plane in Manila, the changes that have taken place over the years have just really been astounding. Let me see if I can. Okay, wrong presentation. Anyways, okay, so let me just say a few things that hopefully they'll get the presentation up. One of the advantages, one of the things I've learned is when you want to talk big picture stuff, the first thing I do is I go to the White House webpage and I look at the speeches that the president's been giving and so forth, and then I go to some of the other senior administration people before I say anything that might, I don't want to step on the sacred stone. But just yesterday, my boss, Secretary Pritzker, Penny Pritzker, gave a speech, Secretary of Commerce gave a speech at the Johns Hopkins on the Asia Pacific. And what she said was, the United States is and always will be a Pacific nation. During the early days of his administration, President Obama made a deliberate and strategic decision to deepen U.S. engagement with the world's fastest growing region, the Asia Pacific. There are people in the media and elsewhere who question whether the administration's rebalance to Asia will persist and thrive as we tackle crisis and capitalize on opportunities elsewhere around the world. Let me be clear at the outset. The United States has made a long-term commitment to the region. Asia will remain a cornerstone of this administration's foreign policy. So I think that that's it. In this speech that she gave yesterday, she also announced that we're opening up operations in Burma. We're also opening operations in Wuhan, China. So. And of course, the president is on his way back to Asia next week, and so the focus is there. No PowerPoint. Okay, so you guys are lucky. Let me just say, since we're talking about the theme of, one of the nexus, I've had an extraordinary privilege. I was in South India. Based out of the U.S. consulate in Chennai, and Tom Friedman wrote the book "The World Is Flat," and I had a front row seat to watch that happen. In Bangalore, in Hyderabad, in Chennai, there are thousands of technical graduate students. There's a tremendous mother lode of intellectual talent there, and when the broadband connectivity came into India, into South India, The geography became history. See, this intellectual motherlode of talent was tapped. So it didn't matter where you were any longer, you're connected. And this is where the economy started to change, the information economy started to change, and we will never look back. And so I was very interested to hear the wireless, Huawei and AT&T. You can't see a more dramatic growth in what's happening, particularly in Asia, in the telecommunications area specifically. I remember sitting in the embassy in Delhi in 2006, and we had maybe one of your partners come in, one of the Indian telecommunications companies, saying that they were going to expand their customer base by 1 million people a month. And I was kind of rolling my eyes. You've got to be kidding me. And of course, that was an underestimate. If you look at the way people have signed on and so forth, and the difference telecommunications is making. So, in any case, let me just say that one of the points that I wanted to make today is that we talk about strategic relations in Asia, but let's think about local strategic partnerships. And this is critical because we have here in Atlanta tremendous resources available. Kennesaw State has developed its programs over the years. I'm delighted to see our representative from J.P. Chase and the Metro Atlanta Chamber. We have a Metro Export Plan that's in the works. Now, this is a group of public and private participants that are all getting together to come up with a framework for a strategic plan for the Metro Atlanta area for exports. And this will include targeting Asia Pacific. This will include targeting key sectors and so forth. In addition to my agency, U.S. Commercial Service, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, we have a staff of 5 people, trade specialists that work with companies to identify and get into markets overseas. We have the U.S. Export-Import Bank in my office. We have the Small Business Administration there. And we're also connected with the Georgia State Trade Office and so forth. So there's a wealth of local folks here that can help you get into not only Asia Pacific, but anywhere in the world. And we need to take advantage of that. I think what I'll do is there's just a couple. If it's worth, I hope it's going to be worth the wait. If I can just show you a couple slides. It's funny. I was giving a presentation yesterday. I was on my way to go to it, and I was thinking about maybe I could tell this story, but I was looking around and saying that there's only a few people that will get this. But I'm going to tell this anyways, and I'm going to explain why I told it. I was on my way to work when I lived in Atlanta 20-some years ago, and I was listening to WSB, the radio show, and there was a host on, a woman named Kathy Fishman. Anybody remember Kathy Fishman? See, there's nobody here. But she had the telephone number of the hotel room where the very famous American comedian Bob Hope was staying. He was in town, and so she called him up at 7:15 in the morning, live on the air, and she said, "Mr. Hope, this is WSB radio station. We welcome you to Atlanta. What do you think of the town?" And he was very gracious. He laughed and he said, "It'll be a nice town when it's finished." And as you would know if you lived here back then, the construction was everywhere and so forth. And one of the points that I try to make, since I have the advantage of having lived here 20-some years ago and having come back, is that there's a big difference between what's going on here now and what was going on there then. I've been in the international trade business for all that time. When we were here before, there was not strategic partnerships. There was individuals and groups of people that were doing trade and so forth, but they were not getting together in any focused way. And I think that the Atlanta Olympics have really brought success to Atlanta in the sense that it's now it's the global city. And in that regard, the level of cooperation that's taking place today, we need to take advantage of that. And again, the Metro Export Plan, in my mind, is one of the best things that's come down the pike. And let me just kind of go, I want to just, the National Export Initiative, President Obama doubled exports in 5 years, create 2 million new jobs. We're on our way to doing that. We've done very well with that. Different agencies in the U.S. government all focused on trade. It's a team effort with the U.S. government nowadays. We have an office here in Atlanta, Savannah. We're in 100 cities in the U.S. and 72 countries overseas. This is how we assist companies, advocacy and promotion, access to export financing, reducing trade barriers, and so forth. Again, overseas in particular, we have U.S. government agencies run by the ambassador. We all get together. Everybody rolls up their sleeves. Under the Obama administration, U.S. ambassadors have gotten religion when it comes to helping U.S. businesses. I've seen it happen. In the 80s and the 90s, there was not so much enthusiasm, but under President Obama, everybody's got the message overseas, and if you're doing business overseas, you can expect and you should get the attention of the ambassador and everybody else on the team. Okay, now this is our team, Exim Bank, the Metro Chamber, of course, Small Business Administration, Small Business Development Center, and the state of Georgia. But the team is growing, as I say. With the Metro Export Plan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and there should be one more slide here. There's going to be new logos that are going to be added to this. But you can see the folks that are on here. This is a public-private sector effort to focus the resources in the sectors here towards achieving bottom line measurable results as a result of the Metro Export Plan. Federal, state, metro, everybody's into the act. Why export? GDP in 2016, Brazil, India, and China, 29% of the global GDP. That's where the business is. This is a particularly, I think, useful slide, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it here because I know we want to leave time for Q&A. But when we're talking about Asia, let's look at where that growth is. These are of the 100 top cities, growth cities in the world. Look how many are in Asia, in China. Now, let me see what I've got. Yeah, here we go. To match this is our operations in China. We have 5 offices, but we're also in 14 other cities with a partnership with the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. And so a lot of the growth that's taking place is in these secondary cities, not necessarily in your core cities. And the same is true. The same is true for India. Again, we're in 7 offices in India, but we are now developing partnerships where we're out into the secondary cities. So the point is that you can come to us here at the U.S. Export Assistance Center. You can talk to our colleagues at the state of Georgia, the Small Business Development Administration. There should be one door for you to come in, and you can get the kind of assistance that would help you identify those partners in those countries that you need to be successful. So let me go ahead and leave it there, and we'll have some time for questions and answers.
Thank you, Don, JR, Alex, and Aman. We do have about 15 minutes left for Q&A. We have 2 microphones here. These 2 young ladies will walk around and get one to you. Who'd like to ask the first question? Yes.
Morning, I'm Ani from USA India Business Summit, and this question is about how do we bring back manufacturing to USA? And keeping in mind that the losses which we have or the slowdown we have in STEM education, how do we bring US companies to the level which will be 20 years from now, these kids have to go to a company which is very high tech?
Who would like to take that one?
I say stop taxing manufacturing. That's just my own.
Well, I know that we have tremendous focus on that in the U.S. Department of Commerce. We had some our senior people here just, I guess about 3 weeks ago, visiting Georgia Tech and a number of the companies, and they were doing a little tour down through Charlotte and up through North Carolina, just talking to companies about what it is going to take. And it is technology, it is education, it is creating environments where, better environments where companies can flourish and so forth. But it's an interesting thing to see. I don't have at the top of my head the companies that are coming back, but it is a significant phenomenon. And certainly the Obama administration wants to encourage that. At the end of the day, though, business people make business decisions, and so the environment has to be right.
About a year ago at this time, I attended the Select USA Summit in Washington. The President spoke and Secretary Kerry spoke, and I think they're really trying to create an environment that welcomes foreign investment in the United States, especially for manufacturing. I agree with, I share the same concern because I'm told by economists not to worry about this shift because the jobs that will be in the United States are going to be these much higher skill required and much higher paying jobs. But then I look at some of the social realities that we face here, and I say, well, a lot of our young people are not prepared for those kind of jobs. So I see a big gap there that concerns me a lot. I think the universities that are represented here can help with that a lot, but we have a lot of kids that are not finishing high school. So it would be nice if somehow we had some jobs that these people could do too, but they're few and far between. And I see a lot of very successful global companies doing a lot of selling in the United States and not manufacturing so much here. So there are a lot of, it's very difficult to do manufacturing in the United States. There are a lot of regulations. I attend half of every day in committee meetings dealing with regulations and just making sure we're in compliance. Our company has a strong focus on compliance, and first you have to be up to date on those things with which you must comply, and it is not easy. I don't know how smaller companies can do it, to be honest with you. And they're all necessary. They're all good regulations. I'm not saying they're bad, it's just, it's a real challenge. That's it.
That's good, excellent. Especially from a technology side, 99.9% of components are manufactured in Asia. But if you really look at it, what Huawei and others are planning to do, or more and more pushes going on, is the integration and putting together the final product which will be used can be a possibility as from a timing perspective, as more and more companies want to deliver products in a real-time perspective. That can be an area where more of the technology companies can be looking at it. But manufacturing itself, I agree with my colleagues, but just because there are so many regulations in California and other parts of the US, it's more to do with integration which will happen in the US going forward.
Okay. Another question. Yes, and then Penny Pry from Georgia State University.
Thank you. Just following up on that question a little bit. I've heard industry leaders talk about the need for students to learn how to code. even if they're not going to be programmers, but to understand how the digital technology is evolving and to even manage people who are putting together the new technology. And I just wondered if any of you had any thoughts about that, of how important that might be.
Sure, so if I can start with this one. So I have 3 young kids, 9 years old, 4-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. And I know, if I look back on my education, it was you go to, for business or to be a doctor or a lawyer. I mean, those are the good careers. But based on where I see things heading, where we're moving into this, very virtualized, everything's mobilized, everything's very global. If I was putting my kids in a program today, it would be computer science, it would be oriented around data analytics, statistics, marketing. I think that's where I really see a shortage of skill set in the marketplace. And with technology moving at such a rapid pace, I think the gap is continuing to get wider. So we're going to have to continue to fill that gap. I'm not saying it's necessarily just coding, but that's going to be a piece of it. It's being able to take all that data and then figure out how to analyze it appropriately, and then put it back into the market.
Well, just to add to that, one of the things we all have to realize, most of the social networking technologies that are coming out, they are coming out from the United States. So at least at this point, we are taking a very good approach, but going forward, we have to maintain that lead. And I think it all starts with colleges, universities, and more technology we can push into the university programs, the better it will be in the long run for the United States.
All
Yes.
I know is the other half of my day is spent listening to IT tell us how we need to spend more money, so a lot of resources flowing that way.
When I was in Vietnam, the Vietnamese government was blocking Facebook, and so we were involved with that issue. And as a result, I had access through Facebook just through the embassy, and I wanted to find out what it was all about, so I signed up and got an account and all the rest of it. And I didn't do anything with it for a long time, and then I finally got back on it. And there was a message on my face page, and it was from my daughter, and it said, "Dad, you're such a loser." And it had been sitting there because I had been looking at it, and she hacked in there and got the message. So that was my first wake-up call to what's happening in social networking.
Okay, we have 2 questions, one in the back and next up front.
Good morning, my name is Catherine Lee from Georgia
Uh,
State University. Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Lee from Georgia State University. My question today is that what are the top 3 qualities you would expect your future employee bring to the company or the organization in this globalization competition that will benefit to you as an employer's perspective?
Well, I mean, obviously you have to be smart and you have to work really hard. I mean, those are just 2 basics, but I know what I look for, and I have this conversation with a lot of the folks who work with me, particularly folks that come in entry level and then they look to advance. And that is, what is it that you're doing that's really strategic? Meaning, like, what new ideas have you come up with? And it's not just about having an idea. I know a lot of idea guys that say, "Hey, I thought of that." Just thinking of the idea doesn't get you anywhere. You got to go through it, and you got to sell it. You got to sell it internally. You got to sell it externally, which may mean selling it to your Asian partners and others. And then when someone brings me that idea and they convince me, I say, now go execute on it and deliver it. And when people can do that, those are the people that I find time and time again, they're going to succeed. And when they hit roadblocks, when they hit challenges, they're going to figure out how to make it around it. So that's what I look for. And it's difficult because it doesn't always come through on a resume. You can get the great resume, you can interview someone, and I always take a couple extra steps, when it comes to references. I know that your references are the people that are going to say good things about you. So I'm going to call a few extra people, and I'll find out. So.
Yes.
I speak to a lot of students, and the advice that I get give to them is, first of all, someone my age or approximately my age is the one's going to hire them. So we don't understand these young people and their needs and all, but they got to somehow get past us. So they need to think about that when they come into the interview. But I want them to know about the company. I want them to have made a connection with the company and truly want to work for us for some reason. And I want them to be able to say that to me instead of, well, I really don't know much about your company, but I'm looking for a job. You know, I want them to take the extra step and know about us. And then it's so important, really all we want is someone that wants to come to work every day and wants to work while they're there. Those soft skills are so important anymore. You'd be surprised how many bright people out there don't have the soft skills. Sometimes you can go further with the soft skills than you can with the brightness. So that's my advice.
I think one of the most important challenges that we are all facing is the world is changing very fast, especially in technology, which is leading all the different industries. So the quality I look for in an individual is flexibility. So more and more of the people are very rigid on how they want to do or start working. I think early on, people need to realize you have to set your bigger expectations or goals in mind, but then at the same time, you also have to say, the world around me is going to be continually changing, so I have to change with it. So that's critical.
I think we have time for one final question.
My name is Madhusudan with Vector Span, and I'm fascinated by what happens to Asian companies, especially when they globalize. And I'd be very interested in hearing, especially from you, Alex, on how YKK got transformed because of the US experience.
I'll try to do this briefly as best I can. Tadao Yoshida's philosophy in the old days, he wanted to spread the cycle of goodness around the world. So he told the first generation of pioneers that he literally told them, I want you to go and become a citizen of that country and stay there forever. So our first generation of Japanese expatriates who were here for 25, 30 years. And they truly got to know us. And at the same time, some of us were hired way back when, and we got to know them and got to know the company and to really appreciate and love the culture. And it's through that the trust builds up, and then the new job responsibilities come. I don't know much about other countries, but I think Japanese companies struggle a little bit with turning over that responsibility and the authority to non-Japanese executives. But I think you've got at least two examples here with David Kirk back there here that it is happening, and we're very appreciative of it. But just trying to keep up with the global changes that are going on, that globalization versus the localization, that has been a real struggle for us. And as Aman mentioned earlier, the speed of development, speed is so important, and we do things well, and we're very focused on quality. Now we're focusing on speed, and it's a very big adjustment for our culture.
I've been told that we have time for one more question.
William Foster from going to the Emory Business School. I teach courses on digital enterprises at Emory, and we see in the past 2 years this massive infusion of machine learning and artificial intelligence into the global cloud. I was a little surprised that either AT&T or Huawei mentioned what they're doing with machine learning in the global cloud. My real question is, how is machine learning going to change your business models and the valuation? And is there going to be only one company controlling the global cloud?
Thank you.
So I think the answer to that is no. There'll be multiple companies that have clouds, but the clouds will inevitably end up peering together. So if I take something like my fingerprint ID that I use to unlock my iPhone 5S, that finger ID could be very useful, but obviously it needs to be very, very secure. So that could be used to unlock my car, unlock the door to my house, start my car. But I would not expect that Apple is going to retain that and be the integrator behind all those other mechanisms. So I expect there'll be a lot of peering that happens. Security is going to be one of the biggest issues around that because there's just so much important information that can end up in the wrong places, and we all know how dangerous that is. But I know we're kind of out of time, other than to say, it's a huge part of our business. I think all of us, we all think about cloud storage, how do we virtualize it, how do we make our businesses more efficient, and the intelligence that you can build behind that, so.
Yeah, just to add to that, rightfully said, most importantly, the industry is going towards open stack and open platform more than proprietary. So guys like Apple, which have done a great job in the last 5 to 10 years to moving industry to this level, are also going to be making changes. So cloud is going to be even more important, an aspect of most of the technical companies, I should say.
I know you all understand that these gentlemen have many important things to do each day, and I hope you'll join me in thanking them for taking time out of their schedule. I'll turn it back over to Professor Gao at this